A Russian winter may be months away, but a nuclear chill just swept into Washington. On the eve of his most critical meeting with Trump, Putin isn't talking tanks or trenches. He's talking nukes. Why now? What game is he really playing? And could Alaska be where peace is forged, or where the next arms race begins? Why is Putin suddenly talking about nuclear weapons treaties with America? The answer reveals a sophisticated strategy that goes far beyond the battlefields of Ukraine. On the eve of what could be the most consequential summit between Washington and Moscow in years, the Russian president delivered a carefully crafted message that positions nuclear arms control as the key to broader peace between the superpowers.
The current American administration, which, as everyone knows, is making, in my opinion, quite energetic and sincere efforts to stop the hostilities, stop the crisis, and reach agreements that are of interest to all parties involved in this conflict. In order to create long-term conditions for peace both between our countries and in Europe, and in the world as a whole, if at the next stage we reach agreements in the area of control over strategic offensive weapons. That is what I wanted to say at the beginning.
The timing of this statement is no coincidence. With Russian forces gradually advancing in Ukraine and Putin having rebuffed Kyiv's calls for an immediate ceasefire, the Russian leader appears to be positioning nuclear arms control as his contribution to broader peace efforts. Adding weight to this nuclear messaging, US researchers and Western security sources report that Russia appears to be preparing to test its new nuclear-armed, nuclear-powered cruise missile, even as Putin readies for the Ukraine talks with Trump. This approach allows Putin to demonstrate engagement on global security issues while potentially deflecting pressure for immediate concessions in Ukraine. The nuclear dimension gives Putin significant leverage. According to the Federation of American Scientists, Russia and the United States possess the world's largest nuclear arsenals, with an estimated 4,309 and 3,700 warheads, respectively. This nuclear parity allows Putin to meet Trump as an equal on the world stage, despite Russia's comparatively weaker conventional military and economic position. The urgency surrounding nuclear arms control stems from a looming deadline that could reshape global security. The New START Treaty, signed by Barack Obama and Dmitry Medvedev in 2010, is set to expire on February 5th next year. This agreement caps deployed strategic nuclear warheads at 1,550 for each nation and limits long-range missiles and bombers to 700. Security analysts expect both sides to breach these limits if the treaty is not extended or replaced. Trump himself has acknowledged the importance of nuclear limitations. Speaking in July, he said,
"That's not an agreement you want expiring. We're starting to work on that. When you take off nuclear restrictions, that's a big problem."
The treaty's troubled recent history adds complexity to any potential agreement. Putin suspended Russia's participation in 2023, though Moscow said it would continue observing warhead limits. The suspension came amid broader deterioration in US-Russia relations following the invasion of Ukraine, yet both nations have maintained these crucial weapons restrictions. For Putin, nuclear diplomacy serves multiple strategic purposes. It could help him argue against new sanctions on Russian oil and other key exports that Trump has threatened. It positions Russia as a responsible global actor willing to engage on existential security issues. Most importantly, it creates a framework where Ukraine becomes just one component of a broader US-Russia relationship that encompasses trade, economics, and global stability. The broader arms control landscape reveals additional pressure points. Trump's 2019 withdrawal from the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty has opened space for a new arms race in shorter and medium-range missiles. The United States plans to deploy SM-6 and Tomahawk missiles along with new hypersonic weapons in Germany starting in 2026. Russia responded this month by declaring it no longer observes restrictions on where it might deploy intermediate-range missiles. This escalating dynamic gives both leaders an incentive to find common ground. Trump's recent decision to position 2 nuclear submarines closer to Russia in response to what he called highly provocative remarks by former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev demonstrates how quickly nuclear tensions can escalate. As Trump explained his submarine deployment, he acted in case these foolish and inflammatory statements are more than just that. The Alaska summit represents the first face-to-face meeting between Putin and Trump since the latter's return to office, and the first Russia-US summit since June 2021. The format itself signals serious intent, with Putin's foreign policy aide Yuri Ushakov revealing that the presidents will begin with a one-on-one conversation using interpreters before continuing over a business lunch, followed by a joint press conference. Trump expressed confidence about the outcome, telling Fox Radio,
"I believe now he's convinced that he's going to make a deal. He's going to make a deal. I think he's going to."
The president indicated this Alaska meeting would set up a more comprehensive summit, including Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, with 3 different locations under consideration, including staying in Alaska. Russia's negotiating team reflects the breadth of issues on the table. Alongside Ushakov, Putin will bring Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, Defense Minister Andrei Belousov, Finance Minister Anton Siluanov, and Kirill Dmitriev, head of Russia's Sovereign Wealth Fund. This composition suggests discussions will cover not just Ukraine and nuclear weapons, but also economic cooperation and trade relationships. The absence of Ukrainian and European representatives from Friday's summit has raised concerns in Kyiv and European capitals about potential concessions made without their input. European leaders held an emergency call with Trump on Wednesday, desperate to influence his thinking before the one-on-one meeting with Putin. They emerged claiming Trump had been receptive to calls for an immediate ceasefire and Ukrainian participation in future negotiations. Yet Putin's nuclear diplomacy may ultimately prove more consequential than any immediate Ukraine agreement. By linking progress on the war to broader arms control discussions, Putin has created a framework where temporary battlefield advantages in Ukraine become secondary to long-term strategic stability. The success or failure of this approach will likely determine not just the future of US-Russia relations, but the broader trajectory of global nuclear security in an increasingly multipolar world. As both leaders prepare for their Alaska encounter, the stakes extend far beyond any single conflict. The question is whether Putin's nuclear diplomacy will provide the foundation for sustainable peace, or merely delay more fundamental reckonings between 2 nuclear superpowers whose interests remain fundamentally at odds.